Who will be India Today magazine's Newsmaker of the Year 2024? Every year end, India Today magazine declares a Newsmaker of the Year, an individual, an institution, a movement, or even an event that made news and impacted our lives in a significant manner. This year, India Today's editorial team had a short list of over 70 names, that's a huge list, who could fit into this category. In politics, there was Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who won a historic third consecutive term. Then there was the opposition India bloc that halted the BJP's juggernaut at the national level. In business, there was Gautam Adani, who was once again caught in a vortex of controversy over his dealings. And of course, there were others. There was the consecration of the newly built Ram Temple that hopefully brought closure to over 100 years' strife on this issue. There was also Supreme Court Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, whose various judicial pronouncements, including one on the controversial electoral bonds, had a major impact on India's polity. And in sports, we had a whole host of choices. The Indian cricket team that became the T20 world champions again, Manu Bhaker with her double medals for the Paris Olympics, and of course, Gukesh Domaraju and the band of young chess grandmasters who did India proud. Hello, I'm Raj Chengappa of India Today and your host for Nothing But the Truth. This is my weekly X-ray of key issues that matter to you without holding back on the truth. So in this episode, we will analyze the key newspapers and go into what determined the final choice of India Today magazine's Newsmaker of the Year for 2024. While doing so, it will also give you a very interesting flashback of what happened in the past year and pointers to 2025. So let's start with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was India Today's Newsmaker of the Year in 2023, the previous year. Now for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the crowning glory of being Prime Minister for over a decade now was to be the induction into what we would call the rarefied League of Statesmen in 2024. For that, he had to emulate the record held by Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, who had 3 consecutive terms with a full majority in Parliament when he was Prime Minister. Modi intended to achieve the distinction with a thumping mandate in the general election that was held in May-June this year. He, in fact, set a very high benchmark for his Bharatiya Janata Party or BJP and its National Democratic Alliance partners, NDA partners, with that famous war cry, "Ab ki baar 400 par." This time, 400 seats plus. However, when the general elections results came out, it was far, far below expectations for the BJP. The BJP's tally dropped from 303 seats to 240 seats, 32 short of a simple majority in the Lok Sabha. It needed the support of its NDA partners, especially Nitish Kumar's Janata Dal United in Bihar and Chandrababu Naidu's Telugu Desam Party in Andhra Pradesh to form the government. And of course, Modi did make history as Prime Minister for an incredible third consecutive term. But the fact that the India bloc had considerably diminished the BJP's dominance robbed the occasion of its sheen. Prime Minister Modi had to evolve a whole new coalition dharma with its own compulsions, complexities, and contradictions. All in all, what 2024 brought up to the fore was Prime Minister Modi's immense resilience despite setbacks and his continuing dominance over the political narrative. So he became a major choice again for this year's 2024 Newsmaker of the Year. Then in the ruling dispensation, there was Mohan Bhagwat, the influential chief of the RSS, and of course the BJP's mentor. Under Bhagwat's leadership, the RSS this year sharpened its stance, using the Lok Sabha election results to assert its influence and push for a recalibration in the BJP's approach. After the general election, that became evident, and in a meeting with the workers in Jharkhand in July, Bhagwat's remarks were seen as somewhat of a rebuke of how the BJP, spearheaded by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, fought the polls and his discomfort with it. Of course, this is conjecture, but this is what he said. In movies, and I'm quoting him, in movies, they show Superman who has extraordinary powers. So a human wants to have such power, but he doesn't stop there. He then wants to become a Dev. But Devtas say Bhagwan is bigger than us, so then he wants to become Bhagwan. Now, this is where I close the quotes of it, and though the organization denies it, some insiders interpreted these words as Bhagwat's veiled critique of Modi's larger-than-life persona during the general election. And, as I said, this is speculation. There was another area that there was a lot of controversy generated by Mohan Bhagwat when he called for a critical reappraisal of India's decades-old population control approach, and he advocated a 3-child per family policy instead of the normal 2, and this sparked many hot debates in policy circles. Now, 2024 also saw the consecration ceremony of the Balak Ram idol at the awe-inspiring newly built Ram Mandir in Ayodhya on January 22nd. I, in fact, went for the consecration to see it live. Now, this event was regarded as a really spectacular demonstration of Hindu revival and resurgence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi captured the feelings when, in his very evocative address, he said, "Our Ram Lalla will no longer be living in a tent. He will now reside in his divine mandir." And I close quotes there. But if the BJP thought that the construction of the Ram temple would pay the party rich electoral dividends, they were truly disappointed when the seat shares, especially in Uttar Pradesh, dropped drastically. The BJP's led NDA ally had won 66 seats in 2019, but that dropped to just 36 in 2024, and that was close to 30 seats down, with the India bloc capturing 43 seats, and therefore it got 37 seats more as compared to the previous Lok Sabha polls. The India bloc too was constantly in the news during this year, and it put up a spirited challenge to both Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP, and therefore was one of those that was in the reckoning for the Newsmaker of the year. But for the India bloc, the year couldn't have begun any worse. If you recall the full acronym for it, when it was formed 1.5 years earlier, was the Indian National Development Inclusive Alliance, or India for short. Now, just 6 months after it was born, its founder, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, defected to the BJP. That was seen as a body blow for the India bloc. But the India bloc recovered smartly and fought gamely. An aggressive campaign followed against the electoral bond scheme, which it framed as a vehicle for corruption and crony capitalism. Also, if you recall the reservation issue, which saw the India group charge the BJP of trying to deny the scheduled castes and tribes of that benefit by trying to bring in constitutional changes. Overall, the India bloc narrative resonated with a wide range of voters concerned about the constitutional erosion and economic inequalities. The bloc was able to successfully push the BJP's tally down to 240 seats, which I mentioned earlier, and in doing so, it made sure that in the third time, unlike in 2014 and 2019, Modi would have to rely on the NDA coalition partners for support. The India bloc won 234 seats, creditable, and came very near to ousting the BJP. But the bloc leaders flattered only to deceive by losing the assembly polls, the crucial assembly polls in Haryana and in Maharashtra to the BJP, allowing the BJP and Prime Minister Modi to regain the political momentum by the end of the year. Now, there were others in the political spectrum that were, let's say, newsmaker worthy. In West Bengal, the doughty Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee single-handedly, if you recall, fought off a determined BJP by guarding her fort in the Lok Sabha elections. Her masterfully nimble tactics saw her Trinamool Congress party win as many as 29 of the 42 seats in the state during the Lok Sabha elections and pushed the BJP's tally down to just 12 seats as compared to the 18 seats it won in 2019. Then after that, the RG Kar medical controversy over the really tragic rape and murder case of a doctor trainee, as well as the Sandesh Kali scandal earlier in the year, were things that bogged her down, but it didn't seem to dent her political popularity. The TMC swept all 6 of the assembly bypolls that were held in West Bengal recently, re-establishing or reasserting Mamata Banerjee's dominance in the West Bengal scene. Then there was the king of comebacks, Chandrababu Naidu in Andhra Pradesh. The Andhra Pradesh veteran made a really stunning return from near oblivion to win his state for a 4th term with a 2/3 majority. His alliance with the BJP and the support they needed to form a majority in the center would ensure that Naidu would become a major player at the central level politics. Another veteran leader, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, demonstrated what one would call the art of staying in power by ditching the India alliance at the very last minute and rejoining the BJP-led NDA alliance in January, just 4 months before the general election. The Lok Sabha results vindicated his decision, with the NDA winning 29 of the 40 seats in Bihar. Kumar's JDU party won 12 of them on its own, making him another key ally at the center for the BJP to shore up its majority in the Lok Sabha. Then, of course, more recently in Maharashtra, the NDA, fighting under the banner of the Mahayuti, demonstrated the power of 3, with Devendra Fadnavis of the BJP, Eknath Shinde of the Shiv Sena, and Ajit Pawar of the Nationalist Congress Party defeating the Maha Vikas Aghadi decisively. That also was in contention. And in the India bloc, apart from Mamata Banerjee, there were 3 other leaders who made a splash this year. Omar Abdullah won Jammu and Kashmir's first election in a decade, a really, really tough one by thwarting the BJP's game plan. In Jharkhand, Hemant Soren endured a jail term that saw his articulate wife, Kalpana Soren, come to the fore. The duo then held their turf against the NDA in Jharkhand by winning the assembly polls convincingly. And in Delhi, recall Arvind Kejriwal found himself fighting a major battle for survival, for retaining his bastion after being arrested by the ED on corruption charges and spent time cooling his heels in jail before the courts ordered his release. Now let's look at other professions beyond politics, and we have a couple of them. One, of course, I had mentioned earlier, Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, and he shone with his jurisprudence, and nowhere was this more evident than in his landmark verdict striking down the electoral bond scheme as unconstitutional. Now, by declaring it as a violation of the citizen's right to know and an infringement on free speech, the court or the bench under Justice Chandrachud reaffirmed that transparency is the lifeblood of an accountable government and in democracy. Then there was business tycoon Gautam Adani, our newsmaker for 2022, who was again caught in an unseemly controversy with a US court charging him and the Adani group with allegations of corrupt practices in a major solar deal across several Indian states. In entertainment, Daljit Dosanjh dominated the sound waves, not just because of his blockbuster concerts across the world, but also, as we heard, by discordant controversies that trailed him in its wake. Now let's take a look at sports that gave us what I would call an embarrassment of riches in terms of choices in 2024. First, of course, was the exciting Indian cricket win. Indian cricket saw the end of a 17-year-old long drought of T20 World Cups as Rohit Sharma's team won a really nail-biting final against South Africa to lift the cup. The last time it was done was during Mahendra Singh Dhoni's captaincy. The Paris Olympics gave us more cheer, and I'm just mentioning one of them. There were plenty of them who did well, but it was the gutsy Manu Bhaker who wowed us all by becoming the first Indian woman to win an Olympic medal in shooting and also the first Indian athlete to win twin medals in a single Olympic. That was a tremendous feat. But India Today's crown for the Newsmaker of the Year goes to a whole team of India's young chess grandmasters who put us on the top of the world in 2024. Gukesh Dommaraju is at the head of an army, really an army of Indian whiz kids storming the global stage, and at 18 years of age, he became the youngest ever world chess champion recently. In fact, his dream to become a world champion was born as a 7-year-old while watching the pioneer Vishwanathan Anand defend his crown, and he is the only one after Vishwanathan Anand to do this, but remember, he is the youngest ever to hold the crown. Our star cast of chess players also includes Arjun Eregasai. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He's just 21 years old. Pragnananda at 19 years of age, and Vidit Gujarati at 30. All part of the gold medal winning Olympiad 2024 team. We saw that and we were so delighted to see them. And all of them feature in the top 20 of the International Chess Federation rankings. Now, such is the passion that chess evokes in India now that the depth of talent it's throwing up has now reached 85 grandmasters, possibly the largest ever that any country has. And remember, once we had a lone entry in the list, that was Vishwanathan Anand, who actually mentored this entire new crop that was there. And much of the credit should go to him for that big initiative that he did. Of course, each one of these individual chess players did the feat that they did on their own talent. Now, my colleague, Deputy Editor Suhani Singh, who interviewed Gukesh Dommaraju in Chennai after his big win, was struck by several things. His discipline, the grueling physical and mental training he endures daily, and his steely resolve to reach the top, whatever the circumstances. She said Gukesh had maturity far ahead of his age, and we all saw that on TV, exhibited a very rare humility. His retort to those who questioned the quality of chess at the World Championship, remember, a lot of them said it was below par, and he said, I believe nobody can criticize me more than the way I do myself. So at the end of a tumultuous year, it was India's young grandmasters, spearheaded by Gukesh, that lifted our collective pride through their achievements and established the country as a global chess giant. This is what made India Today editors declare them the newsmakers of the year 2024. All congratulations to our young grandmasters. For more details, you can read our cover story in the Newsmaker of the Year 2024, which features the winners and all the shortlists that we had discussed earlier. Thank you for being with me in this episode of Nothing But the Truth. I look forward to having you with me next week. Nothing But the Truth.